Hi, everybody. Welcome to 525 Critique and Design of Research for this week 2 of the semester. This week, three things for you to take a look at. Chapter 2 and Chapter 3 quiz/review. Open those up, do those, and then we have a discussion post on a connection to Chapter 2 called the research problem. And so you're going to share your opinion on the research problem there. As you pop that open and go to the question, looking at how the research problem differs from other parts of the research. Again, this is in Chapter 2. You can get it from the book. You can look at the PowerPoint. Share your beliefs, your opinions about that topic, how you think the research problem differs from the rest of it. And I'll touch base here a little bit on each chapter. I won't go into a huge amount of detail and lecture for hours, but I just want to share with you a few highlights and points on each chapter, and you'll see this and we'll talk about that piece. Okay, remember, initial posts due by Friday morning 8 a.m. and then responses to one other person due Monday morning 8 a.m. And the Chapter 2 and 3 review quizzes also due Monday morning 8 a.m. next Monday. You may use, as I said, your textbook or the PowerPoints to help you answer these questions. Chapter 2 PowerPoint here, Chapter 3 PowerPoint there. Okay, with that said, just a quick touch base on Chapter 2. So Chapter 2 talks about identifying a research problem. So this book, this textbook is about different types of research, putting it together, conducting it, evaluating it, and again, it's going to be a surface level in this class, a surface level review of this information. Some of these things you will not touch, right? You won't have any interest in, you won't do, but part of the reasoning or the purpose of this class is to introduce you to that. Okay, you may not use any of these in your thesis or your project, but you might. So we want to make sure you're well aware of them as you get ready to start down that journey of your thesis or your project. So this chapter talks about the research problem, okay, identifying it and how you kind of go about that. So a couple things that I want to talk about here at the beginning of this chapter talks about the research problem, what it is and why it's important. So a lot of times the research problem revolves around this. So we're kind of talking about education here, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be in education, but most of us are involved with that. That's the route we're going to go. So typically there's some issues, right? A research problem is going to look at an issue. It doesn't have to necessarily, but many times it will. Okay? And then this example, or for our purpose, we're talking about educational issues. Could be in K-12 education, higher education. It could be in some form of what supports education. It also could be an issue that would educate people about a topic. Okay? So not necessarily involved in like K-12 or higher ed. So there could be controversies that might be part of it. There are concerns, and then also a guide. It also helps guide the need for conducting a study, whatever that might potentially look like. Okay, so this also helps us take a look at locating it, pinpointing it in terms of a research problem, like what is the issue exactly? What is the concern being addressed? What controversy leads to that, or if there is a controversy? And then the problem being addressed by the study is, and so now as you guys get into your thesis or topic, you may not use this specifically, right? The problem being addressed by the study is, you may not be doing a full-fledged study where you're going to be going out and doing interviews and collecting data, surveys, etc. It might be more of a review of information, and then you're going to analyze it. So there may not be a problem that you might be looking at, but you might be looking at material and information and synthesizing that into your thoughts and your opinions based upon what you read and review. So the research problem is in the opening paragraph. Set the stage for the study, tells the reader why the study is important, and tells the reader why they should read. So when you're talking about starting to write things, your research problem or your research topic, as you might call it, you definitely want to share that story, talk about that information, and make sure that you're opening your introduction with that. You're opening and setting the stage, and you're kind of like creating a hook for that. So one of our assignments for this semester is to work on your introduction, your potential introduction of your thesis and topic. Okay? So that's why we're doing that assignment for this semester, and that is much later on in the semester. So we will talk about that as we move forward. Okay, so the research problem is going to be something that's going to be at the forefront of your work, of your paper, also of your research. It's something you have to be thinking about. You're starting to generate topics and ideas. Some of you already have like kind of a problem or a statement that you want to take a look at. So that's good. But if you have a topic that you're thinking of, but you're not sure like what direction to go with it, we can start thinking about it in this way in terms of, again, not necessarily a research problem, but a research topic and why it is you want to start looking at it. Excuse me. Okay, so here talks about the differences in regards to the research problem and other components of research that we will talk about. Okay, so the topic, and I talked about this a little bit, the research topic, that broad study. Okay, so sometimes we can get too big of a topic, right? And it's hard to narrow it down or focus it down. Okay? So that's fine. We want a topic, and sometimes it can be too big, but we just have to work on narrowing it down. So the research problem then is the issue or the narrowed topic to be studied, okay, and addressed. So the research problem is a little more narrower. Okay? The purpose is the intent or the objective of why you're going to write your paper, why you're going to do the study. And then the questions, the research questions, are those things that you would like answered by your study, by your research. And so depending upon which direction you go, it depends upon how you will go about that. Right? So these are major components of research, and then also how research problem differs from other parts of research. In the book, they'll go into a little bit more detail within those parts of research. Okay? And then here, as we go down, it gets a little bit more specific throughout the PowerPoint here. I kind of wanted to give you a general overview of that in terms of the different parts of research, the generalized differences between the research problem and your question, purpose statement, topic, etc. So here it gives you examples, right? The topic is distance learning. That can incorporate a whole lot of things, right? And then your problem, lack of students enrolled in online classes. Purpose statement, why students do not enroll in online classes at a community college. And the question, does the use of the internet deter students from enrolling in classes? So much more generalized down to specific as we start working our way down to the research questions from the topic that we've chosen. Okay? So take a look at the chapter 2, okay, in terms of looking at the beginning of this research and what it looks like, and looking at a research problem, how to identify it, how to start working so that it's much narrower and easier to work on than a big, large, huge topic. And we'll help you with that definitely as we move along and you guys start sharing ideas and thoughts and what you want to look at for a topic for your thesis. Okay, chapter 3 then we'll touch base on briefly, starts to talk to you about reviewing the literature. Okay, so an important piece of what we'll be working on this semester, both in this class, 525, and also in your research writing class. But then as you're working on your thesis and your paper, how to work on identifying appropriate articles and literature and information, and then how you go about synthesizing it and making sure it's appropriate, right? So this talks a little bit about a literature review. So a couple of assignments we have this semester as well for this class focus around looking at research and analyzing and synthesizing, and that kind of is what a literature review is, right? So a written summary of the literature. What is literature? Literature is research articles, books, things that are connected, material and information that is connected to your topic. Okay? So literature will describe past and current information and research. It gets organized into subtopics, based mainly on research reported in journal articles, and then also document how your study adds to the literature. Okay, so again, depending upon what you do for your thesis or your project, some of your stuff may add to research, some of it may not. You might be just synthesizing or putting a project together. Again, it really depends. But a literature review, something that's going to be published. Okay, so we will do practice literature reviews, right, and practice synthesizing and analyzing articles and information. We will practice on that. So I might call it a lit review, but in theory, it may not be a full-blown one that adds to the literature or adds to research and something that's going to be published. Okay, but when you see a lit review, that is what this is, or the components of that. So we've talked a little bit about quantitative studies and qualitative studies, not much, right? But in a quantitative study, that's something that you're looking at in terms of I don't want to say just numbers, but you're looking at data that has a lot of numbers in it that can maybe define a problem or help you understand a problem better. Okay? So when we're looking at literature for a quantitative study, it's going to help you justify why you're going to do this and the importance of that. Okay, it also helps to support any theory that you may have come up with. It also helps with foreshadowing of research questions, and then helps you basically compare results at the end of the study. So in quantitative, you're definitely comparing results from a study. Okay, so literature review for a quantitative study will help you in these areas with that. Now, if we're looking at a qualitative study is more of telling a story. It is more about getting the beliefs or the thoughts, the perspectives of others maybe involved in this topic or this issue. Okay? So the literature review here for a qualitative study helps you to document the importance of the research problem at the beginning, and then also compare and contrast findings with other studies at the end of the study. So not necessarily that you're doing the research with individuals, but you might be pulling information from previous articles, previous literature, previous data, and then comparing them within your study. So there's 6 steps in conducting a lit review, and these are the key ones, or these are the 6 of them right here. So what are your key terms? What's your topic? What is it that you're going to study? Okay, you're going to then look into and find the literature, the information. Okay? You're going to evaluate and select the ones you want to review, look at, analyze, and then you organize it based upon topics, okay? And maybe subtopics, depending upon as you start to evaluate and look at it, you start to kind of find themes and information that is similar and organize it. Then you synthesize it, you analyze it, you break it down, and then you start to write about it. Okay? And this can be a cyclical component here where you're continuing to do that multiple different ways. Okay? So the 6 steps, and they'll go into more detail here in the book and in the rest of this PowerPoint here as you go through them. Right? So take a look at them, but remember this is kind of the process that we'll be using here this semester, and as you work on your literature review and finding information for your thesis and your project. Okay, so those 6 steps. I wanted to just make sure that you know that you want, as you are looking at finding information and articles and data for your topic, that you're using keywords. Right? So authors will report or put key terms in their article that they might have published on this eric.ed or EBSCO, and you want, if you have a key term that matches up to it, it'll pop up. So sometimes it can be difficult to find what you want to review and look at if you don't have the right key terms. Okay, so there's a lot of databases, and I'm going to show you here quickly as we get into that how to go about doing that. I did that the other day in orientation, but to show you again how to jump in and take a look at some articles. Okay, so again, review the chapter here, use your book, the PowerPoint to help you look at the quiz, but the important component in this chapter is the 6 steps in conducting that literature review. Okay? So as we take a look here, and remember we pop back to the Sitting Bull College website, and we come up here and we click on academics. We go down to the library tab over here on the right. We're going to do a little bit of research. Click on research. I emailed you all the link and password, username and password for the EBSCO site and the Academic Search Ultimate site, I think. But remember to select your library, Sitting Bull College. Click on that. This is the username, the password here. Off the top of my head, I don't remember. I did send it to you, and it is pinned on the news and announcements tab. But as you hit login, it will slowly, looks like, come up here today sometime. And there you go. So that as we come up to here, then you can start typing in what it is you want to look at. Remember, the key terms are important, right? So depends again what your topic is, but I'm going to type in teacher mentoring. And let's see what we come up with. 11,257 results. Okay, so that's a lot of information, right? So maybe I want to look at specific type of mentoring. Okay, maybe it's in K-12, maybe it's in higher ed, maybe it's with a certain group of teachers or whatever it might be. So again, as you come through them and find them, we're going to pop onto this and just take this first one here. And look at mentoring experience of student teachers during teaching practice in Nigeria. Okay, so things can definitely get very specific. So here they have the title, what language it's in, where it came from, is it available, is it peer reviewed? Yes, there's 17 pages, 2025. This is important in terms of publication date. You don't want to have all the material and information that you look at be 10, be 15, 20, 25, 30 years old. You want to try to have some current information within the last 5 to 10 years as well. That's not going to be the case for everything. And it's not saying that research done or articles published 15, 20, 25 years ago are not valuable, but things could have shifted and changed in that amount of time. Okay? So you want to have a balance. The more recent, the better, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be the case all the time. So yeah, lots of information you can find here. A little bit of an abstract on these, so it gives you an idea of what that is about before you dive into taking a look at it. But you should be able to then click on the full text from Eric, and it should pop up right here, download. So this is an Eric, right? Download full text. You click on that, and then right there you have your journal. Some you don't have to go that extra step with in looking at it through Eric. Some you do. So but you can save it, you can print it, however you want to do it in terms of being able to keep that, look at it, read it, review it, and skim it. Okay. As we have questions on these, please reach out and let me know. Okay. Is there another one? Let's go back one more. Also tells you that it was peer reviewed. You can make sure you just get only peer reviewed if you want. Peer reviewed is important, but there are some instances where peer reviewed is not necessarily needed. Okay? There are some credible sources and things sometimes with that. So this one here is a book. So let's take a look at that real quick. See what that looks like. You may not be able to get access to this as easily as a article, but if you want a book to be brought in, 184 pages, that's going to be a lot. But if it's something you really want, you can visit with Jody Thunderhawk Mongo at the library, and she might be able to get it in for you through the library, so you don't necessarily have to go out and purchase it or try to find it on your own. Jody will definitely be able to help you with that as well. Okay, I wanted to show one that was not through Eric. Let's check this one here and see. So this one's an early childhood article, abstract. So this is an example of one where it doesn't go through EBSCO necessarily, or I mean ERIC necessarily, and it might be a little bit harder to get, right? Because you see up here, there's nowhere to for sure find it or to download it. So sometimes it gets a little bit more difficult to find them based upon where they are located. Here you might be able to click on this source, Internal Journal of Mentoring, Coaching, and Education, and it might bring it up for you. But it didn't. It just took us to the search based upon that magazine published. So sometimes things will pop up easy. You can find them. Sometimes it's a little bit more difficult on that. So just be prepared for that, it might be a little bit more difficult, or sometimes the ones you want are not easily accessible. And I think I talked about in the orientation that sometimes there are places like JSTOR that want you to pay for those articles. So anyway, if you have trouble logging in, you can't find the login information, it is in, I think it's actually in 526, or I have that. I will add that here as well for you. Let me see if I put it in here yet. News and announcements. No, so it's in 526, but I'll add it here as well. I also emailed it to you the other day. So 3 things this week. Thank you for your work so far this first week. So the 2 quizzes and then the research problem discussion on that. As we look down the road, looking to week 4 here, just want to bring your attention to this annotated bibliography. You can start working on this at any time, but this is, I talked about briefly, I think, in the orientation or maybe our class the other day, but I'm going to work on writing and researching and finding articles. Okay, so annotated bibliography is determine the relevance and quality of the document being critiqued. Okay, so you are going to look for 10 articles, any articles you want from anywhere. Okay? It doesn't matter necessarily, right? But the topic of your choice. So if you know what it is you want to potentially do for your thesis or your project, you can start looking at those topics. Okay, so here's an annotated bibliography example and what it looks like. 10 articles, about 150 words approximately. Okay, you got to have some detail in it, right? I have to know that you read through it, analyzed it, synthesized it a little bit. Okay, so here is kind of the topic that this student chose. Here is their article. You want to definitely work on APA formatting and making sure you're citing this correctly with that. So again, this is a way to practice. We'll talk about that in 526 a little bit. And then here is the review of it. Okay? Just a paragraph, 150 words ish. Doesn't if you're at 145 words, that's not a big deal, right? But if you're at 20 words, that's a big deal. You need to make sure that you are describing it in detail, so I know that you read it and that you worked through it. Okay, so the 150 words is a generalized number. Okay, again, if you're short a little bit, that's fine. But if you're short a lot, that's not fine. I might have you redo it or do it over. Right? So to do that, so just make sure you're providing enough detail into your abstract. Okay, so there's 10 of these that you have to go through, and then as I said before, these are going to connect to another assignment down the road. So that's again September 22nd. That's a little over less than a month away, but I want to make sure you're aware of that and that you can start working on that at any time. So that's our first big assignment that we have coming up, besides these chapter reviews and a few discussion posts that we have going on here. Okay. All right. If you have questions on stuff for this week 2, please reach out and touch base with me. Thank you.